Welcome back, and I'm severely pissed off right now because I just spent 1.5 hours trying to turn on my computer after recording my video twice, which of course got corrupted. So I'm gonna try to keep this short as I usually do, except this time around I have a feeling that I might be successful. Last week I made a much more elaborate guide on all the premiums and all the planes that you shoot talisman in the entire game. A lot more in depth, which is why it's an hour and 45 minutes long. Now I'm just gonna look at the packs. If you're looking to buy anything, feel free to use my link down in the description. You will get my decal that I will be cycling out around the December sales. It's either going to be the skill issue one if the new one isn't going to be done on time. So it's either going to be the better one or a new one, because I'm not really satisfied with the one that we're currently running. Let's get right into it. We have the F-18C early, and I'm going to keep the Tigershark in mind at the same time, because I do think that the F-18C early is the best thing that you can buy for rank 8 in America. The F-20 is slightly more unique. The issue is that the F-18C early has much more missiles and are much better on top of it. The AIM-7M is easily rolled, and the AIM-7P is no different. But the AIM-7P has something called IOG and data link, and this means that you can actually switch targets or simply relock the target after your radar has shit the bed. The missile will continue flying towards the target, and the second you relock it, that missile will just go straight for the target again. AIM-7M, you unlock, you lose lock, that missile is dead in the water and you have to probably shoot a new one. Sometimes it works, very often it doesn't. And then of course you can choose to switch out with the AIM-9L pylon, so you actually get 2 extra missiles here. Depends on what you want to do. F-18 is a very well-versed plane. 12.7 is a little bit of a rough battle rating, but I do think that it's just a lot of a better plane than the F-20 ever is. Now the F-20 is of course a little bit more unique as it's an F5 airframe with an F-18 engine, but the loadout just kind of leaves it hanging. Next up is going to be the F-1C-200, and while this is one of the better premiums that you can buy for every tree altogether in terms of grindability and just how good it is, the flight performance of the F-1C isn't fantastic. It's honestly kind of mid, but it gets 2 Magic 2s at 12.0, which are pretty damn respectable, and they are pretty good. The issue is that the 530s they're not that great. They're very easily chaffed, and they are pretty easily dodged because, well, they are piss slow. And you just don't have many options. Personally, I would wait for the NF5A. Now, I skipped this one on the previous video and I didn't mean to do so. The F5A, NF5A is simply fantastic. You're looking at an F5C airframe with stronger engines. So you are looking at a gunfighter that is actually able to just be an absolute menace when it comes to flight performance. The only issue is that it's kind of slow and the missiles aren't fantastic, but I do think that it's better to wait for the NF5A instead, because it's a much more competitive plane at a better rating where you don't have to rely on solely your missiles. And honestly, this thing is kind of pay to win. I would say pick this thing up even as a silver lion grinder. And it's the same thing as with the F5C. It's a great way to introduce yourself into jets, because all you really have to worry about is air or flight performance, and you have a decent set of missiles, but it's mainly a gunfighter, and this is a great way to get familiar with the battle rating. The only issue is that it's rank 7, not rank 8, and this goes for both of them. Now, if they ever add a rank 9, it's gonna be a little bit annoying, because you might have to talisman something here, but luckily we have the Ravioli, which is honestly already basically the best plane that we will find in the French tech tree. And so I'm not really expecting them to ever go to rank 9, and if they add it, well, they might do it this December if they add something like the F-22, but I'm not entirely sure if that's the route they are going to get. I know as much as you do, but as a consumer, I would say for now it's probably fine. I wouldn't expect them to go rank 9 just yet, but I also wouldn't put it past them. So I'd say wait for December. There's going to be sales then. Maybe the NF5A goes on sale, and then you'll know for sure if rank 9 gets added or not, at least for the time being. Next up is the MiG-23 ML for the Russian tech tree, and while this is slightly worse than the MLD, the main thing is still there. R-24Rs. These missiles are essentially 2 free kills. They are fantastic, they're very hard to dodge. And the radar on this thing is pretty good. The flight performance isn't all that fantastic anymore, and it's not the most competitive, but at 11.7, it's more than sufficient. Unfortunately, the R60Ms are kind of a bummer and won't really treat you all that well. Great plane though, probably the best thing that you can buy in Russia if you actually want to buy or grind rank 8. Otherwise, I'd say get the SU-11 probably, and then Talisman, the SU-7 here, and then work your way down. But in the long term, that is going to be more expensive. And if you have waited for the packs because you're looking to buy a pack because you think it's more value for money, the MiG-23 ML is a pretty decent pick. Next up is the F-16A Netz, and here we start to talk about something that it kind of depends for you. I think that Israeli tech tree is not worth buying into because it's basically just the American tech tree bar the F-16D and the F-16 suffer my nuts. So I think that this is not really worth it, but if you want to grind Israeli tech tree and you are completely sure, then the Netz is a pretty damn good plane. It has a lot of countermeasures, it has insanely good flight performance, but as I talked about in the video, this thing has no offensive capabilities at all at 12.7. You don't have radar missiles and you don't have IRCCM weapons, so your weapons loadout is kind of lacking. And you have to play around this, and you can play around this if you're very familiar with top tier and just high tier jet combat. But if you are a newer player, I would not recommend this thing. It's a pretty decent grinder, it's a pretty insanely good plane, but the weapons really hold it back and it might not be the best experience for you. But it's a great dogfighter, it has great flight performance, and if you do manage to get past that head on, you're probably going to do pretty damn well. Then we have the Tornado IDS WTD 60 as well as the SU-24 WTD 60. And I'm not sure what WTD 60 stands for, but it probably stands for something called It's a Horrible Plane in German. The SU-24 and the IDS are pretty abysmal. The loadout is pretty okay. If you want to go base bombing, I would personally go for the SU-24. If I do want to go base bombing, the loadout is a little bit more diverse. The plane is honestly, it rips. It's really, really quick. And it's a lower battle rating. So personally, if you want to go base bombing in Araby, you're better off with the SU-22, but I would say no to both of them as these planes are pretty damn mid. Same thing with the SU-25K. It's not terrible, it's definitely a decent plane, and if you really want to go ground pound to get your RP, this is a pretty decent plane, but that's the same thing as I said with the A-10s in the longer video that I made last week. You're gonna have a little bit of an issue where you get to the ground units, and by the time you start ground pounding, the game is probably already won or lost, meaning that you're not going to get much done at all. I wouldn't buy this, I'd just get the MiG-23 ML instead. But if you really want to go for ground pound or perhaps a plane for tank LB, the SU-25K is not a bad vehicle at all. And then next up, we have the Mig-21bis Lazur-M, and I think this is the go-to plane for the German tech tree. The F-18C, well, it's the same as the American one, and I think it's pretty decent. And rank 8 is strong, but it's not on sale right now. And I think that the Lazur-M is just a more competitive package at 11.0. However, you have to actually play the plane a bit more because it's more about the flight performance, the gun, and pretty mediocre missiles, whereas the F-18C has the ability to, of course, shoot AIM-7Ps and AIM-9Ls, which are better missiles. It's a better loadout, but it's also at 12.7. And I'm not entirely sure what the battle rating will do in the future, but I think that the Mig-21bis Lazur is the more stable option to pick from right now. And I also don't think that we're going to get that many more insanely powerful planes down the line in Germany. So I'm hoping that they keep it at rank 8. And if it stays at rank 8 maximum, the Lazur-M is going to be the better pick, or at least the pick that I would choose personally. Then we have the F5C, and I briefly mentioned it before. The F5C is honestly pretty damn good. It's more of a gunfighter. It's also rank 7, as I talked about multiple times now. But that's also the F4S. And these are two very different planes, but they serve the same kind of function. They both kind of introduce you to jet combat. The F5C does this by giving you a plane that works on flight performance and guns, where you actually kind of play it like a prop, and you can get used to missiles because they're easy to flare in this thing, and you are slow. So you are going to be engaged very often, and you have to play around this. And this will teach you how to navigate top tier or at least high tier jets by flying around and navigating yourself. With the FRS, this starts to play less of a factor because this thing is a flying weapons computer. It's all about the missiles and not about the plane. So they're kind of the opposites of each other. I think that the F5C is the better plane, it's more dynamic, it's more prone to survive the test of time. Because the FRS, the second those AIM-7s get even worse than they already are, this plane becomes essentially useless. This thing has no hands whatsoever. All it can really do is shoot missiles in the head-on, and the missiles that it does shoot in the head-on can be pretty easily rolled. Here are the loadouts once more. But yeah, the F5C is the better plane here, and I would say that it's a great pickup. The issue is that we have rank 8s, which are only $5 extra, but I would personally go for the F5C over the F-18C early, except right now for $5 you get an extra tier, you get better multipliers. Do you actually though? Yeah, you do. I think this is more future-proof, but it's gonna be up to you. They're not bad planes, either of them. You can choose one that you will like a little bit more. Next up is the F4EJ, and I'm going to include the AV8S with it instantly. And this one is, it's wait for the F-2A ADTW, and this goes for both of them. The AV8S has basically nothing going for it other than acceleration and flares. And that's the same as with the AV8A, for example, except the AV8A has something very important, the most important part actually, and it's called AIM-9Gs. This one has AIM-9Ps, which have about half the range. And the Harrier isn't that fast to begin with, meaning that the range is even more lacking. And AIM-9P on a plane like a Harrier is not going to cut it. And I would say skip it altogether. But the F4EJ, normally I'd said, yeah, this is a pretty decent plane. But the second they started adding the F5A here that you can talisman, the FCU that you can talisman, I already started to go to the direction of go skip it altogether. And then they added the F2A ADTW. Wait for this thing to go on sale. It's going to be a much better pick. It has insanely good flight performance, just like the Netz, if not better. And it actually has a good weapon loadout. It has AAM-3s, which is more than sufficient. Some of the best IR missiles or conventional IR missiles in the game. Something like an R73 with an HMD is an insane combo, but when you have the flight performance of the F2, you don't need a high off-bear weapon with an HMD to rely on, because the plane will whip its nose around on its own. So I'd say wait for this one to go on sale and skip this altogether. Then next up you have the F-20 Tigershark, and I mentioned it briefly, but again, if you click the timestamp, you can go to the F-18C timestamp, just click it down below. It's a pretty okay plane, slightly lower battle rating. I think it's inferior to the F-18. And mainly, all this really has going for it is that it's unique. Next up is the Harrier T.10. And about the only 3 good things about this plane are, first of all, when you die, you don't have to look at the plane. The second one is going to be the amount of countermeasures. And then the third one is going to be the guns. The issue is that using guns at 11.3 when you're flying a Harrier is not going to be looking all that great. For Tanker B, it's of course going to be a little bit of a different story. The loadout is pretty respectable. But for Aero B, this thing is a bit of a stinker. Because when the guns are one of your main selling points, at 11.3 on Harrier, you are going to be looking a little bit rough. The 25mm, if you aren't aware, has insanely high velocity, and it does pretty damn good damage. The issue again, or only really, is going to be the ammo count, because these guns, they absolutely rip through the ammo at 1850 rounds a minute, when you only have 102 rounds per gun. Next up is going to be the AMX A-1, and this one is also a bit of a funny one. First of all, just skip it. Second, you basically pay for a downgrade. The AMX one has the Ma-1 Piranha missiles, which are very maneuverable but lack reach. They have absolutely zero range on the plane that's already pretty slow at 11.0. And because you don't have an HMD, you have to whip the nose around anyway, meaning that the extra maneuverability basically never comes into play. The AIM-9L is maneuverable enough. It has more range, and the Vulcan is much better than the Defazar, and you're flying it at a lower battle rating on top of all of this. Wait for the sniper. The AMX is not the plane you want to use to actually grind with. I was gonna do the tanks now, but my headset just exploded as well. I can't hear anything anymore and does not review what I'm saying. I'm going in blind now. I'll put all the stuff in the comment section. Hazy typed it up. I'm terribly sorry for cutting this short, but I honestly can't fucking take this anymore. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to use a link in the description, and I'll see you all very soon again with some actual gameplay.